They were dropped off by submarine and set off in their collapsible canvas and plywood canoes to sink ships carrying vital supplies for the Nazis. It was an almost impossible mission, and escape plans were sketchy. It all began here at the Royal Marines Stonehouse Barracks in Plymouth, where Major Blondie Hasler interviewed those men who'd volunteered for hazardous duties. He told them nothing about the mission and asked only a few questions. Only one of those picked is still alive to tell us what happened.
Nothing much really, just asking questions about your life and what you did, what you were expecting. And then when he says, do you realise your expectations of a long life are very remote? Well, I was gobsmacked. I couldn't answer that. I said, I've never thought about it. But anyway, he accepted me, so that was it.
Norman Colley is 91 and very lucky to be alive. He was one of those 13 picked for the raid, but a foot injury during training relegated him to the reserve. He's the last man who can tell the tale firsthand, and he was tracked down by Devon researcher and author Quentin Rees for his new book on this virtual suicide mission.
I think there are ordinary men who were expected to do extraordinary things. God knows what they were thinking. They must have been frightened, but they were a group which had been moulded together, and they did the job that they were meant to do. They were not anxious to die, just anxious to matter.
One of the two-man cockle canoes like they used is the first exhibit you'll see at the National Maritime Museum at Falmouth. 5 of them were launched from the submarine about 20 miles from the mouth of the Gironde. 2 men died as their canoe was lost in the tidal race at the river's mouth. A second capsized and the 2 men died of hypothermia attempting to swim ashore. A third canoe became separated. The 2 men were later captured and shot. Just 4 men in 2 canoes made it to Bordeaux. They successfully attached limpet mines, but the ships were in shallow water and were repaired and refloated. The volunteers weren't told of the mission until the night before, when the dangers became clear.
When we were told about it properly and given all the information, yes, we knew it was going to be tough to, because there were no plans to get us away. He just accepted it. There were no plans for us to be picked up anywhere. And that was the worry. When they told you how far you got to travel on your own and not being able to speak any French.
Only Blondie Hasler made it back to Britain with his number 2, Bill Sparks, the sole survivors. Blondie Hasler had said he would take only single men on the mission. But in his research, Quentin Rees has discovered that George Jellicoe Sheard, who lived here in Devonport, was married. He died after his canoe capsized. Not only did he leave a widow, but she was pregnant at the time. She died later in an air raid on her parents' house not far from here. There's no record of any child. 8 men were killed in the raid, which resulted in only a temporary setback to the Nazi war efforts. So did they die in vain?
No, the actual shipping was up and running again quite quickly, but there was a great value in morale and propaganda, both to the British and the French. It annoyed the Germans intensely, and it diverted resources. It seems offensive to say that morale was boosted for the sake of the men that died, but at the time it was greatly needed.
Norman Colley remembers waving his comrades off from the submarine and promising to buy them a drink when they returned. He would have died with them if he hadn't hurt his foot.
So I always felt a bit guilty, but nothing you can do about things like that. It's fate.
A film of the Cockleshell Heroes was a big hit in the 50s, and a more permanent memorial to their bravery is to be unveiled on the banks of the Gironde River later this month.